In a new 4-part series where Tiger Woods plays a round of golf with some celebrity guests, we get to see a different side to the star golfer. And in the first episode that's been released, we get to know a number of new things about him. It was pretty surprising because many of us really thought that we knew everything about him, especially since there was a time that some pretty private things in his life were broadcast all over. Now Tiger Woods talks parenting and life lessons with Jada Pinkett Smith on a new series filmed the day before the car crash. Please remember to hit the like button if you enjoy this video, then subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications. That way you'll never miss a thing. When it was filmed. All of the episodes of the 4-part series were filmed the day before the massive car crash in February that Tiger Woods was involved in. It was a pretty serious accident, and he spent weeks in the hospital. He even had to get operations to fix some of the damage. It was pretty scary and made some of the comments during the interview even more poignant than they would have been before the crash. So let's talk about some of the things that Tiger Woods and Jada Pinkett Smith talked about during the first episode, and some of the things we learned about Tiger with it. He is pretty humble. Something that was pretty surprising that came from the show was to see just how humble Tiger Woods is. He's a pretty incredible sportsman, and with all the things we've learned from the reports through the years, you kind of expect Tiger Woods to be pretty arrogant and full of himself, but that was pretty far from the reality that we saw on the show. In it, he seemed pretty relaxed and down to earth. I know that he was in his element on the golf course doing his thing, but still, it was a pretty different side than we thought we would see. About coaching his son. It seems like Woods' son, Charlie, is starting to follow in his famous father's footsteps, and that he is starting to really love golf too. But Tiger says that he isn't really coaching him in the traditional sense of the word. It's more of a case of being an example than a coach. He shared with Jada that the 12-year-old looks just at how his dad is doing certain things and that he copies that. He did teach his son that every shot counts and that you need to bring the same intensity to each shot regardless of the types of shots that they are. You need to bring the same focus to each putt in the game and make sure that you know that every shot counts. But he said that besides that, Charlie is pretty much a natural and he doesn't need to have a lot of coaching from his dad. His daughter will always be his little girl. Tiger's daughter Sam is only about 13 or 14 years old, but he's already dreading the day when she flies the coop. He told Jada that he doesn't want Sam to ever leave the house because he feels like she will always be his little girl. But he also went on to say that she was the person who has really taught him how to become really patient. It was really nice listening to him speak about his children. It's pretty obvious that he adores them and that they're the thing that his world really revolves around. And he loves spending time with them. He even works out with them, even when it's hard. He loves doing family workouts with his kids. But even before the car crash, Tiger Woods' body had been through the ringer. The operation that he had as a result from the crash was his 11th major surgery. He had his fair share of injuries, and that must be rough on the body. And besides that, the golfer is 45, still pretty young, but getting a little bit older. So the body feels that too. That means working out with a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old might not be as easy as it used to be. Not if you want to try and keep up. Tiger shared that he thinks that it sucks getting older, but as Jada said, the wisdom that comes with it might just be worth the bad parts. Where his resilience comes from. Jada asked Tiger where his resilience comes from. Not only has he had to build his body back from injury time after time, but it has been so much more. After the news of his affair came out, his life and his wholesome image was pretty much shattered. He needed to repair his life and build up his game almost from scratch. Many other people would just have disappeared from the public eye and never look back, but not Tiger Woods. He picked up the shattered pieces and built his life back up. So I get why Jada asked him about his resilience. He admitted that it was a case of always fighting to get better and pushing himself to be better, even when it's hard. Those comments are a little bit more hard-hitting and poignant now that we know that the very next day he would be in an accident that could have easily cost him his life, one that he is still recovering from even now, months later. But from the things we have learned out of his conversation, we know one thing for sure. Tiger Woods is super resilient and he'll be working hard to get his body back to top form and able and ready to compete. A lot of his hard work comes from insecurity. He's one of the best golfers that ever played the game, but surprisingly, a lot of his hard work seems to stem from insecurity. He was really motivated by feelings of not being good enough. He mentioned that he always needed to work like crazy and put his all into practice because he always felt that without all of the hard work, he just wouldn't be strong or talented enough to win, that he was always younger or smaller than everyone else. So it kept him motivated to work hard to become better. I think that's pretty great news for the rest of us when we feel like we're not good enough. Even one of the most talented sports people ever has the same feelings. His favorite pastime is free diving. It's a sport where you dive without using any breathing apparatus to support your oxygen levels. You just swim underwater while holding your breath, but it's actually harder than it sounds and pretty impressive when you hear that Woods has gone as deep as 80 meters under the water. It takes loads of patience and training to get that far, but according to the golfer and loads of other people that love it, free diving is super relaxing and rewarding. For Tiger, it's an activity that calms his mind, slows his heart, and almost puts him into a bit of a meditative state. And this is a guy that knows a thing or two when it comes to meditation. He has meditated all of his life. Tiger Woods is no stranger when it comes to the art of of meditating. His mom was born in Thailand and she was raised as a Buddhist. So meditating was something that has always been important to her and that she quickly shared that with her son as soon as he was old enough. So Tiger revealed that he's been meditating with his mom since he was born and that it's an activity that they still like to do together, or rather that she's been making him do it for his entire life. But even though his kids are already quite a bit older than he was when he started, he hasn't actually shared the practice with them. Other favorite pastimes. He does have some other things and hobbies that help him relax and that he loves. One of them is that he loves his barbecue. It seems almost like a bit of a cliche, a man and his grill, but things become a cliche for a reason, so it does make sense. And for someone that makes his life traveling to different places while competing, I'm sure Tiger eats out a lot, and perhaps he eats a lot of super fancy foods all over the world. So it makes sense that a simple steak on the grill might sound like heaven. What he doesn't reveal. Even if this was a pretty open conversation between two people who almost seem like friends, there are some things that weren't revealed. Tiger spoke out about big parts of his life and his feelings in general, especially when it comes to his work and his children. But when you watch it again, you see just how much wasn't mentioned in the conversation. He doesn't really mention his private life all that much. He never speaks about any romantic relationships or speaks out about anything that is really private. But it makes sense. He isn't required to share his private life with fans at all, and still he gave us all a glimpse into the person he really is. So keeping things back is pretty understandable. He looked really tired. At the time of filming, Tiger Woods just came out of a time period that was a pretty hectic schedule where he worked as a tournament host. He was also still in rehab for a microdiscectomy that he had in December, so it made sense that he seemed a bit tired. Combined with that, all 4 of the episodes were shot on the same day, so this episode could have been shot early or late. Either way, Tiger was filming all day. It would make sense that Tiger would be tired, but people have questioned the timing of the shoot. Remember, it was only hours later that he got into that massive crash where he rolled his car in. It has been proven that he had no signs of impairment and that speed was the cause of the crash, but now fans are speculating that exhaustion could also have had a hand in the crash. It was an interesting episode, and we can't wait to see the rest. Thanks for watching.